Let's take a look right now at some of the stocks on the move today with Lisa Mateo. Lisa, what do you have?
All right, we're starting with Tesla because their shares have been down more than 4% before the bell. Reports earnings tomorrow, right? But the big thing is that Wedbush Securities analyst Dan Ives, he said the company faces this, quote, code red moment as it prepares for that earnings report. He also pointed out that Elon Musk should step back from his work at Doge to focus on Tesla. He says that his involvement in the White House has really led to this brand damage in the company. If you remember 2 weeks ago, too, Ives, he slashed the price target for Tesla stock by 43%. So that's one piece. Then you have another piece. You have Barclays lowering its price target on Tesla. That happened late Thursday. And then you have this report from Reuters out that Tesla is delaying the launch of those more affordable cars. It's been talking about giving these, more affordable EVs, but now they're saying that that could be delayed. Right. So it's kind of it's pushing down the Mag 7. It's leading the losses in the Mag 7 right now.
It's a long weekend here. I mean, am I right? Mr. Musk has sort of disappeared. Maybe he is back at Tesla.
I don't know. It's interesting, but you know, when you lose Dan Ives, that's a challenge for the stock, I would say. So we'll see how that plays out. But again,
most definitely.
The fundamentals are concerning to a lot of people.
I saw Dan Ives on Fifth Avenue this weekend in the acclaimed Easter Parade, which is a really wonderful celebration. He was just dressed normal.
Exactly. And all the Easter colors, I'm sure. So I want to point out Capital One Financial. Their shares have been up about 4% this morning. The reason why bank regulators approved their $35 billion acquisition of Discover. Now, this happened late Friday. If Discover shares are rising too, they're up about as much as 7%. But the deal could create the nation's biggest credit card issuer by loan volume. But the reason why this is kind of standing out is because this decision was awaiting whether the DOJ would sue to block the acquisition. People were waiting for that. Some were worried it could harm competition. But then you had Antitrust Division Chief said that there wasn't enough evidence to challenge that, so it's expected to close on May 18th. But it really could unlock some things for Capital One. For one, it could unlock at least $1.2 billion in annual revenue because in the past, they only had to rely on Visa and MasterCard, and that was it for them to issue its credit cards. But with Discover, they can kind of cut out the middlemen and then have more control over the prices that merchants are charged every time that, someone swipes one of its credit cards. Nice. So that was kind of interesting there. And then if we check back in with stocks that were moving before the holiday, before we had the break, right, that some of them are still moving, but some in a different direction. For example, if you remember, we talked about Hertz last week, right? They had that big rally, news, Bill Ackman's Pershing Square taking a big stake in the company. But if we look at the shares before the bell, they're off as much as 12%. So that's a big turnaround for Hertz. And then you have Netflix still riding that wave. Its shares are up about 3%. Results after the bell showed right before the holiday forecasted revenue the second quarter beat estimates, but also analysts see the company's business as resilient. That's how they're describing it. So Netflix kind of still riding that wave.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. I mean, we'll see here. They're trying to push through a lot of, the price increases across the board. They're trying to drive up their advertising revenue. And that whole password sharing thing, that worked.
Am I right?
Down on that.
Disney's out with Andor soon this weekend. I guess it did well. I watched a couple of episodes and stopped watching it. But who's number two? Well, is there a number two?
Well, I think in streaming, Disney is a clear number two. They are profitable. But what's it mean to be number two these days? At this point, it doesn't seem like a whole lot. But if you look at the profitability, for their streaming business, it does ramp up pretty significantly.
Does Amazon Prime compete? Because they have the biggest catalog, right?
Amazon Prime's got the biggest balance sheet, so they can buy their way into
Mrs. Keene is watching Steve McQueen and Candace Bergen this weekend. The Sand Pebbles.
Going way back.
The Sand Pebbles.
Netflix doesn't have that. That's that's a movie, Lisa. Candace Bergen.
Okay. I remember that. You mentioned Disney, actually. They were upgraded to outperform at Wolf Research. So, see, getting a little upgrade there for Disney.
Okay. Thank you. Lisa Mateo, thank you so much here. And, of course, with all of our stock movers, this is some of the stocks on the move. You can subscribe for a 5-minute episode. Do that at Bloomberg Podcast. And, of course, you can look for the stock movers, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else.